So you talked earlier about
Yeah.
the gap in like a lot of sex education. What do you think is like the remedy to that?
Sex education. And also, okay, so here the thing is,
like how though?
we're supposed to be the United States is supposed to have like a separation of church and state, and that's just like literally not true. And part of that is rolled into the way that we teach sex education because we don't. And so there is a correlation between the states that are like, especially like the Bible Belt, states that are heavily religious, heavily Republican, don't include sex education as a priority, and those are also the states that have the highest rate of teen pregnancy.
Out of curiosity, if you were lesson planning, what's lesson number one we're teaching? You said
if you're doing like a high school or even like later in middle school curriculum,
they don't know anything about
like a 101 class. But yeah, I do think
Ruth
some
from
sort of
I think
from
like
Ozarks. I don't know shit about fuck, Marty.
So obviously you have to hit the STI training, so how to prevent them, but what each one of them is and how you go through like the testing for that, how often you should get tested, and like what types of STIs require what type of treatment, because I think people get like very scared about them, and like sometimes you should be, and other times it's like you're gonna take an antibiotic and you'll be fine. But also this is all very preventable.
99% of them.
Well,
They're so preventable, and it's also like I remember once I had my health class was like fine, it wasn't great, but one of the things that I remember the most from it was my teacher said we were talking about using condoms, and he was like, no one's going anywhere. If you're naked, like no one is going anywhere. So if there's a condom in the room, just fucking put it on. Like you've gotten to that point. It's so I think about that all the time.
Yeah.
He says like at that point no one's going anywhere. So it takes 3 seseconds. Just do it.
Yeah.
Just
you always want
one.
a guy to put the condom on. You don't want to have the girl put the condom on. It's not fun.
And also, girls don't have enough, I don't think, experience in doing it. And if you rip it or tear it or there's a hole or whatever, like just let the guy do it.
I've used it a million times, and I still like always have to look in and out. And I'm like, which side's got the little bulbous tip? Which
right,
a little condom dance you do? It's like, which way is it go?
Yeah.
What I will say is, I don't know if we all had the same sex health teacher, but for mine. The guy, Mr. Snyder was his name. It's a guy you don't want to learn anything about sex from. It's a dude that was there for too long, and I'm like, I mean, it was very just like here, there, you're done.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay,
that's
what else?
a lot of it is like. So it's like the STI training, it's how to prevent pregnancy, and it's also like having there's a really amazing educator on Instagram, and I think her Instagram is Sex Ed Files, and she has these little note cards of she teaches at schools, and she collects all these note cards of questions and she answers them on Instagram, and like the questions that she's getting are so important, and they'll never talk about it in schools. Like somebody asked her like what the abortion pill was and how it works. Like that's important. Like whatever side of the fence that you're on, you're gonna make a decision and not know what it is. Like you should at least know.
Well, I think now there's so many more avenues to, because again, the stuff if you're gonna like, I feel like the problem with it initially is they try to baby the situation where it's like, hey, if we're gonna trust you with sex,
yes,
you need to be real about it. Where it's like, hey, you could get pregnant, you can get these things. Yeah. But now at least there's so many different avenues where like, if you have a question on anything, you can Google it, and there's so many different ways and so many different people that have ways to put it out that I do think there is so many at least opportunities to be like, hey, I don't know this question, at least I can Google it.
Yeah, the only thing that's concerning though is there's a lot of places that fund like studies that are doing it with intentions of creating misinformation. So there's a lot of like
bias.
Like there's a lot of like what are they called? Like people who are like for the families, and they're doing all of these studies that
they have an agenda.
Yeah, they have an agenda. So they're like creating these studies that are not really accurate, and they're skewing all of the results and whatever that will say like having casual sex affects your psyche in a negative way, which is not necessarily true.
I agree with that.
We got it, Alex. You fuck. We got it.
Well, I think I also think that I do think some of it is like they want people to have sex later on.
But people are not. It's not going to happen.
As soon as you hit puberty, that's like something you need to know. Because like guys are getting random boners from elementary school on, and it's like, yo, you can potentially knock somebody up and change their life. Some girls hit puberty at like fucking
young.
10,
Yeah,
9,
yeah,
10,
exactly. There
yeah.
are girls who get their period literally at 10. So
when
Jesus
did
Christ.
kidding?
but yeah, and we're also in a different world now where like there are kids who are coming out as being trans and like don't fully know what that means. There are adults who are having children who are having these experiences, whether they're coming out as like non-binary or trans or whatever like variety of the spectrum that you are, and like those parents don't even know because they were also not trained. So like just having a place where that education can be given, because it's part of the human experience, whether you agree with it or not, it's better to know. And it's better to know from a place that like is going to give you evidence-backed, researched, actual, real information, not bogged down with people's biases, not bogged down with politics or religion. It's the human experience, the same way that going to the doctor is. Like, this is important, you know?
Yeah. Well, again, at the very worst, I think that there's platforms now that and the internet is obviously a miracle that, hey, you can have, there's so much resources, personalities, people that you can look to and get advice from.
Yeah.
And again, if you don't like their advice, okay, you can move and find different personalities or different experiences of more of what you're going through,
Well,
what it is.
What I was going to say is you kind of mentioned the STIs and all that and the testing and everything. And like right when I got out of college, I had a scare. It was actually, I had a UTI, but I was like freaking out because I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And I called him like, hey, what's the deal? Like, I want to get tested. Like, what's the deal? And he's like, listen, man, you can get a chlamydia test. And what they have to do is they shove a Q-tip, a metal rod. They shove it all the way up your urethra. And I got to tell you, I was a high-level Olympic caliber skier my entire life, broke every vertebrae in my back. Nothing was more painful than that. And I'm like, you know what? I think I'll live with it.
But we do. we could do pee tests. So I'm surprised that they don't do pee tests.
So they did a blood.
10 years
They
ago.
ended up doing a blood. They're like, oh, or you could do a blood test. I'm like, I'm going to do the blood test.
Yeah, do the fucking blood test.
You wanted to scare you.
But
that's
that's always what it is. They always go with the scare first. And like that even fucks me.
Well, that's probably a good thing to even know that like you can ask if there are other ways.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Well, that's step one. I feel like at least for like the schools, like a lot of the ways they like train for adult things, I feel like a lot of them are like do the counter opposite. For example, when we would ever have like those assemblies you used to have to go to where it's like, oh hey kids, we're 40-year-old hip hop dancers. We're gonna tell you don't do drugs, just give hugs, like whatever dumb shit like that.
Yeah,
not gonna lie, that sounds like us.
Us in 10 years.
But I'm like that. You ever seen the floor's lava?
It is fire like chlamydia.
But I feel like as soon as you hear that, that makes me want to be like, well, if they're saying don't do drugs, I immediately want to do the opposite and try some drugs. Like, I feel like, if you're getting sex education from somebody that like, you're like, what is it? Like, you don't trust the method of it is not accurate. And the way you implement it, whoever implements it,
they need a different approach.
Yes.
Yeah.
Completely.
Well, but that's why I'm excited for like the amount of people who are now becoming sex educators and doing this, because it's important that they're like young and know what's going on, especially because sexuality's changed so much. Hasn't really, but things are changing publicly. So now things are so different and everyone is so much more open, and you can find porn literally anywhere. Like there's so much
in your DMs.
I think it's
exactly.
I do think the young thing's important because like no one's ever had a young sex ed teacher.
Never.
Like even with us, I remember Mr. Snyder, very nice guy.
You were saying yours. Mine was worse.
Who was yours?
Mr. McGrath.
Oh boy, yeah.
Yeah.
So, all of the, and again, I'm sure it's very common for everybody else.
Yeah.
The sex educators were either probably 60-plus-year-old men or women teaching it. It's like, listen, Granny, Betty White, I don't want to learn sex ed. I would actually learn sex ed from Betty White, but the rest of those, it's like, I don't want to learn. Don't want to learn it from that.